The most terrifying thing about this story is that it actually happened. Okay, not exactly, but we visited a cursed forest. We explored an abandoned mental hospital and we searched for ghosts in a haunted house. And while we didn't get any demons or poltergeists, we did experience some strange activity. But first, let's set the scene. We decided to venture into the woods near Waverly Hills Sanatorium. For those who aren't familiar, Waverly Hills was once the largest tuberculosis sanatorium in the world. Thousands of patients entered the facility, but only a fraction made it out alive. Those who succumbed to the disease were buried in a mass grave in the woods behind the main building. And since the forest is located right next to a highway, it's pretty accessible if you're looking for a haunted adventure. Now, my group and I aren't the kind of people who run around holding seances in haunted forests. We go because we love creepy places and urban exploration. But if you're going to do something like that, you might as well commit. So we brought an actual medium with us. This woman had been featured on multiple TV shows, and she was very confident in her abilities. She walked through the forest with her eyes closed, holding a pendulum and feeling the spirits all around her. She said the energy here was unlike anywhere she'd ever been. The amount of sorrow and pain radiating from the trees was almost too much to bear. When she finally opened her eyes, she told us we needed to head deeper into the woods. After about 45 minutes, we found a clearing, a perfect spot for us. While she prepared the circle, I couldn't help but think this was all a bit ridiculous. But I had a feeling I was about to eat my words. That's when the attacks began. They weren't violent or painful, just weird. Like when I reached out to pet a dog, I suddenly had the urge to rip someone's arm off and eat it. Or when I turned to leave, I felt compelled to smash the back of my head into a tree. Luckily, I was able to resist both urges, but I knew I was in trouble when I heard voices. At first, they were unintelligible, just whispers in the bushes, but then they coalesced into screams and pleas and laughter, and it sounded like there were dozens of voices all around me. I turned slowly to face the source, but all I saw were trees. All except one. There was a thick patch of leaves directly behind me. I pushed them aside and gasped. There was a hole, like something had been dug out of the ground, and it wasn't there before. I didn't say anything though. I just knelt down and started digging in the dirt. I had a feeling what I was about to find would explain a lot. I carefully brushed away the topsoil and revealed a metal box. I felt a jolt in my chest, like the hairs on the back of my neck were standing on end. I knew what I was about to see would change everything, but I didn't realize just how right I was. After a few more minutes, I brushed away the rest of the dirt and lifted the lid. It was full of bones, human bones, the kind of bones that belonged in a museum, not in a forest. And I'm not talking about dinosaur bones either. These were definitely human. Femur, humerus, ribs, there were even skulls and spines. It looked like a butcher shop, but instead of meat, it was filled with bones. I don't know how many there were because I didn't count them. I don't want to remember how many there were. I slammed the box shut and stood up. I knew I should call the police, but I was scared. What if they thought I'd done it? What if they searched the rest of the forest and found more I wanted to keep this secret, so I put the box back in the hole and covered it with leaves and dirt. Then we all left the forest and went back to reality. I thought I could shake the feeling, pretend like it hadn't happened. But I can still remember the taste of fear in my mouth, the way my hands trembled when I placed the box in the hole. It was the most terrifying thing I'd experienced in my entire life. But it gets worse, because the next day, I woke up and found a dead bird in my backyard. And it wasn't just any bird, it was a crow, and crows are never good omens. Plus, it was facing my window with its beak pointed directly at me. Underneath it was a small piece of paper, and on that paper was written one word, leave. I didn't stick around to find out who was leaving. I called my boss and took the rest of the week off. I figured I'd feel better after a couple of days, but I didn't. In fact, I got worse. The image of the bones kept flashing in my mind, and then the calls started. I was at my desk when the phone rang. I picked it up and said, "Hello." The line was silent for a moment, and then I heard a voice. It sounded distorted, like underwater. "Did you find it?" I didn't respond. I was too scared to speak. And then the voice continued, "You shouldn't have done that." I hung up and hoped it was just some kid playing a prank, but they kept calling, day and night. And each time the voice was the same. "Did you find it? Why did you dig it up? You shouldn't have done that." The worst part was that the numbers were never the same. I checked the caller ID on every single one of them and none of them matched. It was like ghosts trying to contact me from the grave, except instead of saying boo, They were asking me if I'd found their bones. It got to the point where I couldn't leave my house. I was too afraid of what I might find on the other end of the line. So I called the police. I explained the situation and they told me to just block the number. But there were hundreds of them. I mean, thousands. I tried to tell them, but they didn't listen. They said there was nothing they could do and hung up on me. So I did the only thing I could. I moved. I packed up and left town. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't even say goodbye. I just vanished. And that's when the nightmares started. I'm not sure how long I was on the road. I don't know how long I'll be on the road. I can't stop moving. I can't stay in one place for too long. Because when I do, they find me. I've seen them in my dreams. Dozens of pale, gaunt faces staring at me from the darkness. And when I wake up, I can still see them. Their eyes are the same color as the dirt I dug up. And their mouths are filled with teeth that shouldn't exist. I'm not crazy. I'm not insane. I didn't lose my mind. But something followed me home. And whatever it is, it doesn't want to leave. If you enjoyed this video, check out This Forest Will Drive You Crazy. Or click this other video. What's the creepiest thing you've ever seen? For some of us, it may be an old, worn teddy bear with its fur matted and dirty, lying on the floor of a creepy abandoned house. For others, it might be a lifelike mannequin head staring blankly ahead, or an unnerving painting seemingly observing our every move. Our past videos have shown just how many disturbing images we humans can conjure up, but we want to see if we can terrify you even more. The story you're about to hear comes from Reddit user Throwaway 94,273. So this happened a little over 10 years ago. The story starts with the unnamed narrator coming into possession of an antique trunk belonging to his late uncle, a man known only as Jake, who passed away when Alex was very young. This must have been quite a shock for him because, according to Alex, he didn't really remember much about his uncle other than his name. After his family told him about the trunk being in their attic, he goes to fetch it and brings it home. The contents would change his life forever. Before we begin, please leave a like and subscribe to show us your support. We really appreciate that. Now, let's read the story. When Alex brought the trunk home, it was large, heavy, and smelled faintly of burned flowers and rusted iron. He opened it up and found several items such as old maps, cryptic journals, documents, and pictures. But the most disturbing item by far was at the very bottom, wrapped in black velvet. As soon as he saw it, Alex felt his skin turn cold and he noticed the room dim. When he picked it up, it was a mask. It was made from some kind of polished bone and had hollow eye sockets and a wide grin that appeared to be permanently fixed in place. Alex couldn't get over how well crafted it was. According to him, it looked like it was made yesterday, but he knew it had to be at least several decades old. With a closer inspection, he noticed strange spiral-like carvings, which seemed to go on for miles and miles. At this point, he felt completely weirded out and decided to put it back in the trunk. However, it wouldn't be the last time he saw it. Alex started having dreams of the mask. He also began seeing it in reflections, always seeming to sense when he was looking for it. He says it felt as though the mask was watching him. He even claims that he heard whispering every time he opened the trunk, as if the items inside were excited to see him again. His cat didn't seem to like it either. Whenever it noticed the mask, it would start hissing and growling, arching its back and refusing to go anywhere near it. Alex's friend suggested that he should sell the mask to someone who could deal with it better, but Alex refused, saying that he had no idea what he was messing with and that he didn't want to risk it falling into the wrong hands. In addition to the mask, Alex also began experiencing strange occurrences in his house. Most of these were subtle, but some were hard to ignore. Electronics near the mask would glitch, and screens would display random images and sounds. At night, Alex swears he heard chains dragging, metal moans, voices from beneath the floorboards, and distant screams in unknown languages. He went on to say that he thought he was going crazy, but he kept feeling drawn to the mask. He wanted to put it on and see what it was all about. Alex didn't think it would really do anything. He figured that if it was really dangerous, his uncle probably would have found a way to lock it away or destroy it. But alas, he was dead wrong. The first thing that happened after he wore the mask was that he could see better in the dark. But this was just the beginning. He goes on to describe how the world seemed to change around him. He could see things better, hear things more clearly, and feel things more intensely. He noticed that it was incredibly quiet, and the room seemed to have faded into black and white. He tried to remove the mask, but it wouldn't budge. No matter how hard he tried, it stayed firmly in place. According to Alex, He clawed at his own face for hours, scratching and gouging his skin until finally the mask released him. But this is where things got even stranger. After he ripped the mask off his face, he looked down at his forehead and noticed a new scar shaped like a spiral, identical to the carvings on the mask. The strange part was that it glowed faintly in the moonlight. From that day on, the mask began moving around on its own. Alex would sometimes find it hanging above his shower, standing at the edge of his bed, or even sitting on top of his dresser. One time he woke up in the middle of the night and found the mask hanging above his bed. As he lay there frozen in fear, he felt the presence of the mask. The smile seemed to widen, and the eyes stared directly into his soul. His dreams also became increasingly disturbing. He began sleepwalking, frequently waking up, confused and disoriented. He would find himself in places he'd never been to before, such as the woods, abandoned churches and strange basements. According to Alex, the mask would somehow guide him to these locations, possibly feeding off his confusion and fear. At one point he awoke on the floor of an old church and realized he'd been kneeling and praying while sleepwalking. He tried to convince himself that he was insane, that none of this was real, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something else was at play here. Eventually, he locked the mask in a safe and buried the entire thing in concrete. But as you've probably guessed, the mask came back anyway. One night he woke up and found himself standing in front of the mirror. To his horror, he was wearing the mask, but this was no ordinary mask. The reflection staring back at him wasn't Alex at all. It was the mask itself. He tried to reach out and touch it, but his hand went straight through. When Alex tried to speak, his voice sounded distorted and echoed. It was then that the mask began whispering to him. It said, "Let me see." With that, Alex panicked and ran out of the room. He hasn't worn the mask since, nor has he dared to look in any mirrors. Whenever he closes his eyes, he feels as though the mask is peering deep into his mind, searching for something. He believes that it wants to take over his body and use him as a vessel. He's even convinced that the mask is responsible for the strange occurrences in his house. He can still hear chains dragging moans in the basement and whispers echoing through the halls. Alex believes that he is being watched at all times, and that the mask will eventually return to claim him once and for all. In a final twist, Alex reveals that he isn't the only one who's experienced this. There are similar masks scattered around the world, each connected to something ancient and evil. He believes that the masks are keys to a greater power, and whoever finds them all will open the gates to another dimension. Alex is desperately trying to track down the other masks and prevent this from happening, but he doesn't know where to start. If this is true, then humanity may be doomed. Who knows what horrors lie beyond the veil? What do you think? Is the mask still possessing Alex, or did it abandon him after he showed resistance? Let us know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. See you later.